Anthropic finally filed to go public, which was rumored for the last couple of months, I think. This is the second really large IPO in very recent history, obviously after SpaceX. Uh, I know we both are passing on the SpaceX IPO. What are your thoughts on the Anthropic IPO? Is this something that you are more interested in?
I would definitely be way more interested in the Anthropic IPO because the financials tend to support a valuation that, at least the valuation that they just recently raised at, was very low, in my opinion, relative to how fast they're growing and their current revenue run rate. I believe that was about $960 billion valuation, but they are at a revenue run rate of approximately 50 billion. And these are not sort of like fully, SEC filings type of documents. So it's just rumored numbers that we're going off of. But I suspect their IPO will probably give them a much higher valuation than 960 billion. It will probably be somewhere north of 1.5 trillion, because that just tends to be how these things go. Um, and by the time that they go and have an IPO, if they are at, let's say, 75 billion, 60, $75 billion of uh, annual run rate of revenue, that would actually be way more justifiable, in my opinion, than SpaceX's valuation. I probably would be interested. I'm not. It's unlikely that I would file to try to get some IPO shares because I suspect there's gonna be a frenzy. But actually stepping back for a moment at all of these major IPOs, SpaceX raising 75 billion, and then potentially some of its employees trying to unload their shares after some lockup period, Anthropic raising probably somewhere north of 50 to 100 billion dollars. Um, then most likely followed by OpenAI raising a similar sort of money. Google just raised $80 billion on the open market, which is unprecedented also. Um, and I think they actually increased it to 85 billion because they were oversubscribed. So like, I'm not sure where all this capital is going to come from. There is a little bit of me that is starting to worry about the macro level of the stock market, that there might be a little bit too much liquidity that I'm not sure how or where this money is coming from. Um, so, there's like some spidey senses that are like, huh, that's kind of interesting. but but Anthropic in particular seems to be way more justifiable than SpaceX.
Yeah, the way I'm thinking about Anthropic and these AI models in general is the two Ds: distribution and data. And so what I mean by that is, and I love Anthropic's product. I use it every day for work, as you know, and it's absolutely fantastic. Where I think there's a problem potentially in the long run is one, distribution. So like where are these models going to show up by default? So like for Apple, in theory, they would have Siri on their computers and on their phones with an actual AI built into it. Uh, Google has Android and Chrome. Uh, Anthropic doesn't have anything like that. You have to go out
Mm,
and either install it or select it as an option. If Apple, for example, gave you, which they do with ChatGPT kind of, and they will with
right.
Gemini. They let you to, pick it, but it's not a default anywhere. And then the data side of things, um, Anthropic has a ton of data, but if I compare it to, again, like a Google that
Right.
has like YouTube alone is one of the greatest, I think, data sources that there is. If you want to like learn
Right.
any how to,
I
YouTube,
mean, the
YouTube
Buy
has
Hold
it,
Rant is on
right?
YouTube, so yeah, that just
Exactly.
basically solidifies it.
So to me, of these AI models long term, I think Gemini in particular is king, where it
Mm,
has the best data pool, it has the best distribution. Um, and I think in terms of coding, which is what Anthropic does best, Gemini is fantastic. I do think Gemini is better, or sorry, Claude is better,
Claude.
but Gemini, to me, is second best from my own personal use.
Right.
So what I think about is, I'm a long-term investor. In 10 years, am I confident that Anthropic or Claude is going to be the killer AI model? Absolutely not. I'm not saying they won't be. I'm just saying I'm not going to be confident that they're going to be the killer AI model, especially being that they really just blew up within the last year.
Right.
Whereas if I'm thinking about Gemini, I'm way more confident that they are going to be around and very strong in 10 years' time. So to me, I can't, while I love Claude, I love Anthropic, I can't invest in them because I just don't know where they're going in 10 years, where I'd be more interested in investing in a company like Google, which they are in my portfolio. Um, if I'm thinking about what AI models are going to be the strongest 10 years time.
Yeah, that's a great question. And this sort of reminds me of the 90s search race. And, the early winners, which were like Excite and Yahoo and
Yeah.
AltaVista.com,
Ask
they,
Jeeves.
they, well, Ask Jeeves was maybe like not an early winner, but it was like
No,
one
but
of the
it's great
dozens.
branding.
But like Alta Vista was probably like the king, and then maybe Yahoo on the sort of like directory side was king, and Excite was a close, second or third. But these guys sort of all have disappeared since from the search scene, and Google came out way late. Actually, I think Google's launch was in 2000 for search, or maybe 99. Um, so uh, the landscape might shift a few times even in the AI space before we get through this. I mean, the fact that OpenAI is now second to Anthropic, and Anthropic came out of nowhere. It seems like just in the past year, it's kind of crazy. Everybody was sort of like betting whether or not it would be OpenAI or Gemini, right? And it
Right.
turns out that it's neither one of them. Um, as to who takes the lead this year. And right now, the lead seems to be with Anthropic. So, um, the shift is probably going to happen at least once or twice more before this thing sort of like settles into massive advantages that are like hard to overcome. And you might be right that maybe Google is the one that has that massive advantage because of their access to data. But uh, but also, like, I wouldn't count out Meta, for example. And Mark Zuckerberg, for example, in a recent call, talked about something controversial that they're doing, which is to train their AI systems off of all of their employees' computers as well. So as the software engineers are coding, um, he was arguing that we have some of the best coders in the world, and it makes sense for us to train our systems off of the best coders in the world, as opposed to trying to find code on the public domain or like contractors that are coding or whatever. So some people view that as like a huge invasion of their employees' privacy. Others are like, well, yeah, of course, we have the best, like brains in the world. We've like literally curated this hiring process that makes sure that the best people in the world are working for us. Why wouldn't we use them for the training material for the AI? It sounds draconian, but it also makes sense, right? So Meta could come out of nowhere and all of a sudden have the best coding system. Like, don't discount these things. We have no idea how it shapes up, and maybe Google does the same thing just to respond, and they have even more, coders that like have PhDs and are pretty incredible. So um, this is going to be an interesting race for sure, and the stakes are pretty high. So we'll see what happens, but I'm kind of excited to watch this.
I think meta is a great point because, again, if you're looking at it through the lens of distribution and data, I would say their distribution is in the middle, in between Google and Anthropic. Google being a great example, Anthropic not really having much. where they could integrate their AI, and they already do this in Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. It's
Right.
where people already are. And then same thing with the data, I would put it in the middle as well, where they have a ton of data from Facebook, a ton from Instagram, a ton from WhatsApp, in
Right.
addition to the internal teams as well. So yeah, you're totally right. Where they in the AI race right now, they're probably ranking farther behind than where they will end up. Uh,
Right.
they're positioned to do well.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Uh, yeah. I'm kind of surprised they're not doing better already, but yeah, this will be an interesting year for Meta, I think. And all of the investment that they've been making, I think, makes them a very undervalued company. So this is, I don't know if we were going to plan or if we were planning on talking about Meta at all in this session, but or in this episode. But I view Meta as one of these companies that just continue. The stock price just has continued to get hammered, while the numbers and financials and position just continues to get stronger. So I'm very excited about Meta.